Hello and welcome back to The Hatch. I'm Sammy Roth.
And I'm Rosie Murphy, and this is the podcast where we talk about Lost.
We have reached the first part of the three-part Season 4 finale, There's No Place Like Home. We're going to be doing Part 1 today.
Parts 2 and 3 originally aired as sort of a 2-hour season finale, so that's the way we'll be doing it as well, getting to both of those next week.
And we have a conversation this week with a very special guest, Malcolm David Kelley, who plays Walt, and talking about his whole arc on the show, and it's a very fun conversation.
Let's get started.
We start each week on The Hatch with our hot takes about the week's episode. This week we have a call from a listener, from James in North Carolina, that we're going to share.
Hi, Sammy and Rosie. This is James in North Carolina. Just calling you with a couple of quick takes on There's No Place Like Home Part 1. I have two quick ones and a big one. The two quick takes from this that strike me are the intense confusion that John Locke has throughout all of this, and how completely out of control of anything he is. He's constantly asking Ben, who are you signaling to? What are you saying? What are we doing? Where are we going? It's like John Locke says, don't tell me what I can't do, but he is more confused by everything going on around him in this episode than ever before, and who wouldn't be, but it just strikes me the desperation that he reeks of through this whole episode. The second quick take, and there's not much of it, is how deliciously good Jack and Sawyer are when they are doing something together and not sniping at each other. When it's Jack and Sawyer trudging through the jungle looking for the chopper and on one mission as a duo, it's great to see. It doesn't happen often. And the most overwhelming hot take from this is you do not want to be on the bad side of Sun Quan. That is just so magical. The whole scene with her and her father, you do not mess with this woman. It's a marvelous episode. I know Jack has a lot of screw-ups in this too, and we all know the evolving Jack on your show, but love the show, guys, and I hope some of those make sense, and have a great day.
So, James, your point about Sun was actually the hot take that I had brought to this recording session. I also think Sun showing up stone-faced and telling her father that she's used her settlement money to buy a controlling interest in the company, for which she blames, we wouldn't have been on that plane if he hadn't worked for you, etc., is a great type of revenge, and a sort of particularly hardcore type of revenge, and you do have to respect it.
Oh, yeah. Sun, I'd actually forgotten that she does that. Like, I remembered, she's going to confront her father about stuff, but I forgot that she actually purchased a controlling interest in his company. That settlement must have been fucking huge.
I mean, that's implied.
Anyway.
James, I also really like your other 2 points, and I think they'll probably come up in our discussion of this episode. Thank you so much.
Definitely, and if you would also like to leave a hot take and have us play it on the show, call us. The number is 9546-DHARMA. Again, 9546-DHARMA, and you can leave us a voicemail. Try to keep it to 60 to 90 seconds or less.
Sammy, do you want to go ahead and share your hot take?
Yeah, I have two, so I'll do my first one. This is something I had no recollection of from watching this episode previously, but I kind of love that it basically seems like, with Captain Galt having been killed and Kimi off on the island, that, like, Desmond is in charge of the freighter now. Like, he seems to just be running the show over there. Like, he's given the pilot directions on where to take the boat and investigating what's wrong, and he seems to have freed Michael. Like, Desmond is just like, nobody else wanted to take over, so Desmond did it, and I absolutely love it. I think it's hilarious.
That's very funny and astute. And I think you're right, but good one.
No further commentary. It's just fun. What's your hot take, Rosie?
Oh, gosh. So, Ben, our dear friend Ben Linus, has spent the entirety of Season 4 in captivity, more or less. And yet comes out here with, Plan O. We've worked through plans A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. And he finds this trunk that presumably he's buried under a rock. He says it's been there for 15 years when Hurley eats the crackers, and then signals with this mirror to his people. And then, of course, we see Richard show up near the end of the episode, presumably having been signaled. And it's just like, Ben continues to tell us that he always has a plan. But after Shape of Things to Come, my faith wavered, for lack of a better word. And it was kind of like, oh boy, maybe we've reached sort of the bottom of the well of, like, Ben Linus creativity. And no, dear reader, we have not.
No, you're totally right. And, that line that you reference...
How many times do I have to tell you, John? I always have a plan.
I love, Michael Emerson's face when Locke asks him, what's going on? How are we going to get past the guys with the guns? And Emerson looks back at him, and he just looks so, consternated and disturbed that Locke would question him and would ask that question. He should win an Emmy just for that face he made there. It's great. It's so
it
good.
has this tone of, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's are you fucking kidding me, John?
Yeah,
I
it's
always
excellent.
Have a plan.
Yeah.
It's a great face. Anyway, hot takes. Where do you want to? So much going on this week. This is a roller coaster ride of an episode, and we haven't even gotten to the finale yet. Should we start with the on island or the flash forward?
Well, I kind of actually, if I may, start with sort of a broad structural take.
Please.
I don't know that I love knowing who gets off the island. I mean, I know it's been revealed slowly over the course of the season, but I felt watching this episode okay, we're scattered in 5 different places. Kate's here, Sayid's here, Hurley, these people who we know get off the island are in all these different places. So what's going to happen in the finale is that they're all going to come together, and probably some other stuff is going to happen. But I felt like the largest amount of suspense would have come from who lives, who dies, etc. And that's already taken care of. So it was a little bit okay, I've seen the final picture. Now the question is just how do the pieces fit together, which is still an interesting question. But I surprisingly, did not feel as much suspense as I expected to feel,
Okay. I get what you're saying, and that's a totally valid perspective. I could not disagree more strongly.
Excellent.
Yeah, that doesn't speak to my experience of this episode. I mean, the one thing that I was thinking as I watched this, I think the way that they've structured the storytelling, both in this finale and throughout this season, has been totally brilliant. Mm-hmm. I mean, with regards specifically to the point you've made, they've told us over the course of this season who's going to get off, and I find myself very compelled by this question of how is it that all of these different people, spread disparately over the island, are going to, wind up together and wind up being the only ones. What's going to happen to everyone else? Are they going to die?
Yeah,
are they going to be left on the island? We already know that Ben is also off the island, and that someone named Jeremy Bentham is out there, and we don't know who that is yet.
Right.
So we know there's a little bit more, more to the game. And I just think that the way they've set this up by showing us, I mean, so much over the year of what happens to them after they get off, but then specifically here starting with, basically them, right after they get off the island, there's so much mystery to me of why are they lying? Why are they also, upset? What I want to know what it is that happened that took them to the place where they're sitting in that chopper at the beginning, looking like they've just seen a death. And looking like, and Sun having to lie at the press conference and talking about only 8 survivors. What the hell happened here that brought these people to that moment? I think there's a whole lot of drama and mystery and, compelling, what's going to happen, even without the question of who gets off. I think this is more interesting in a lot of ways than just who gets off the island and who doesn't.
That's fair. Let's talk about the press conference.
Okay.
So, yeah, the press conference is super mysterious, right? Because we do get all these hints of, okay, we think they landed on this island. They washed up on the shore of Mimbata. All of this detail that some of it we know is untrue, especially the things that the survivors are saying. And then other elements of it are sort of okay, maybe these are the pieces of how they eventually came to be found. But yeah, Sun lies straightforwardly about her husband's death.
Right. And looks like she's not going to for a second.
Right.
And Jack gives her this look come on, son, come on.
Well, and there's that whole exchange on the plane where they, Jack says, we all know the story, kind of asks everybody to commit to sticking to the story.
Yeah.
And Sun has to remind him that, hey, yeah, they're treating us like shock because we are in shock, which...
Yeah,
super
that's
valid point from
such
Sun.
a great line. But also, I think that the way they've put this season together, I mean, one, the introduction of the flash forwards, going back to the end of last season is brilliant. But two, specifically the way the flash forwards work in this episode, like, they kind of work both as a flash forward and as a flash back. Because we've already
it's the very beginning of the flash forward timeline.
Right, and we've seen so much of the stuff that comes after this. So I'm watching these flash forwards, like, simultaneously wondering, we're kind of seeing the present and the future, like, back into themselves here, where we're finally seeing what happens right before they get off the island, even as we build to that moment where they get off the island, and, those two things are coming together, and we're finally going to get all the pieces. And I'm also watching this thinking, like, oh my gosh, I know what's going to happen next. They're so happy now at Hurley's party, and Nadia and Sayid are together, and Nadia's going to die, and, Hurley's going to end up institutionalized, and, Sun is going to be mourning Jin's death as her child is born. Like, Hurley's going to crash that Camaro. Like, I just think it's so interesting how that flash-forward storyline works, where you're, forlorn about stuff to come, and it gives it pathos, but it's also, like, building drama about what we haven't seen yet. It's really interesting to me.
No, I think that's a really good point. This is kind of like we're coming to the corner. We had like the x-axis and the y-axis, and they're about to intersect. Yeah, I mean, one other really interesting thing about the flash forward, I think, is I think we start to see, in the same way that in Something Nice About Back Home we started to see Jack kind of break down, I think we start to see Hurley break down here. Or at least we start to see that he never had it together to begin with. As soon as he got off the island, we see them throwing the surprise party, and he freaks out and thinks that, he's in trouble. He sees the numbers on his car's dash. I mean,
and it
seems
sounds like the
this
whispers
starts...
when he goes into that house. It's a pretty good fake out.
Yeah. But it just starts so quickly for Hurley, which kind of, explains why he is institutionalized, I guess, kind of so early in this timeline. Jack is able to live, quote unquote, normally a lot longer. Yeah. I
mean, who was it that says, someone says to Jack, Sawyer says to Jack on Island this week, Jack is being his, crazy, stubborn self and insisting on tromping off into the jungle, first on his own and then with Kate, with his stitches bleeding because he promised everyone that he'd get him off the island, goddammit. And, we talked about this last week, but Sawyer says to him something like, why are you so stuck on this thing about getting off the island? And it's kind of a funny question because, like, of course they want to get off the island. Like, that's the point. But we're also seeing this week that, they get off the island and things still kind of suck.
Right.
So maybe Sawyer had a point. It is pretty nuts to see Jack, even with Kate, to see Jack and Kate running off alone with 2 handguns after the helicopter when we know that Kimi and his guys are on there. Like, wasn't really sure what they were thinking.
I don't know. It doesn't seem super prudent, but I think, Jack is also in a place where, like, he thinks they are leaving today. Like, we are not going to war today. I think
True.
It would be really hard to get this freighter's been off the coast for days at this point. It's been so tantalizingly close for so long that it's got to seem just out of reach. And maybe if we can just go to them and tell them where we are and tell them to come get that'll be it.
Fair. That's fair.
Thank you. There's a defense of Jack for James from North Carolina.
Yeah. And lucky them that Kimi and his guys are all off looking for Ben, so they just get to deal with Frank. I kind of love the mechanics of everyone running around everywhere and trying to keep track of what's going on. Like, I think it allows for that beautiful montage at the end with the Giacchino score playing, where Ben is, walking into the orchid and everyone else is, like, tromping around in a different part of the island.
It's fun. It just requires a great deal of focus.
I've got that focus. No, but I mean the scene with Jack and Sawyer and Frank at the helicopter, where Frank is explaining, that Kimi and his guys are off to capture Ben, and it builds up to this, like, fabulous moment where Sawyer stops and gives Jack this look and just says, "Hugo's with Ben." And Jack says, "Son of a bitch."
Yeah.
And to me, that just encapsulates, like, okay, finally now, like, I'm okay with this whole thing where Hurley has been, like, pulled off into this lock Ben scheme for questionable reasons, because it gave us that moment where it's like, oh shit, you can't just get on this helicopter and bring people away. Like, you got to go save Hurley first. Like, everything is complicated and crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, of course it is. But a part of me wondered in that scene, like, would they have done that for anybody except Hurley? You know, like, Hurley is so beloved and kind of, like, I think in sort of Jack and Sawyer's eyes, so, like, in need of defense and in need of, like, not helpless, but, like...
protection.
Needs them. Needs to be rescued.
I think there are a couple people they would do it for. Like, I definitely think, considering it's Jack and Kate, or Jack and Sawyer, if Kate had been out there,
for sure,
in danger, they would have gone for Kate. But definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Because if they hadn't had to go save Hurley, they probably could have just fixed the chopper and been on their merry way.
Right, but I mean, what would have that accomplished? They would have then been on the boat with all the C4 anyway, which they're going to end up on next week.
One thing I really like about all of these moving pieces is that, once again, we get to the other end of season 4, and Jack and Locke are united again. They don't really know it, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right.
And so, a season that started with Jack trying to kill John, ends with them united against a common enemy. Tension's going to remain between them for as long as both shall live. But what's so nice about this is that the way it ends up is Jack does the thing that John wanted him to do all along. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Jack, they end up united in a deeper way or whatever.
For sure.
Very nice.
For sure. Speaking of, just to go back for a moment to the Jack Sawyer thing, and being united, when Sawyer goes after Jack, when Jack's intending to go on alone after the helicopter, there's a great callback when Sawyer says,
"That son of a bitch is stubborn. Hold up! You don't get to die alone."
Great callback to if we can't live together, we're going to die alone, from season 1. So Sawyer was listening to Jack's speech all those months ago.
So we probably should talk about John a little bit. What do you think about our listener James's point here that John once again appears to have no idea what he's doing?
God, I think James is right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all very much guesswork. I mean, and he does keep asking Ben questions. I mean, one thing I was thinking about is next week Ben is going to leave Locke in charge of the others when he goes to turn the wheel. Like, Locke gets officially anointed the leader. Mm-hmm. But then the flashes start, and Locke is immediately taken away at the beginning of season 5. And, when I think about this, I've always kind of thought, if Locke had really been left in charge of the others and had not been immediately pulled away, I don't know what he would have done. I think he still would have felt, lost and confused and not had answers. And, I mean, maybe that was Ben when he started too, but I just don't know that Locke is equipped to deal with that in the same way. Because Ben, could just lie and manipulate his way through stuff, and that's not, for the better, but that's not Locke's skill set.
Yeah, Ben at least can kind of pretend, and Ben fundamentally wants power, whereas Locke, I think, doesn't necessarily care whether or not he's the leader, as long as he's sort of fulfilling his destiny, right? So I think, I love that question. I think if he had been left in charge, we would have had another, further instructions moment, where you have John, with people who are looking to him for answers, and he feels helpless in his inability to provide them, and sort of goes to seek them from whatever that higher power is. For a long time, that was sort of the island itself. I think that kind of was Ben for a little while. Despite their fervent disagreements, John knows that Ben knows things and can teach him things.
For sure.
But I think, we would sort of have a leaderless, rudderless John Locke again, possibly building another sweat lodge.
Yeah. Or possibly falling, deep into the sway of the man in black, thinking that he's taking orders from Jacob.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would have been another very possible trajectory, actually. I mean, he already took orders from Christian, effectively.
Yeah.
Christian just shows up again and says, "Hey, nice job turning that wheel. Here's your next assignment."
That could have been a dangerous road.
Probably would have been a lot easier for the man in black to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish.
Maybe.
But
maybe. I also I do want to give Ben a little bit of credit. When he turns himself over to Kimi, like, yes, he really does have a plan in place here. Like, as you said, he's been signaling with his people. He does, I think, have this expectation that they're going to show up and rescue him. But it puts him in a pretty precarious spot. Kimi puts the gun right to his head there, and might have pulled the trigger, or something else might have happened. The rescue might have been botched. He might have been killed in the crossfire. Like, I do want to say, even though he thinks he has a way out of this, it is at least a little bit selfless.
I mean, it's a gamble, to be sure. This is, he and Kimi know each other at this point. I wonder, part of what I read into this, and this is a wild assumption maybe, but I'm not sending anybody else out there. Like, after what I did to Alex, I'm not using anybody else as a pawn. Like, I think this is going to work, but I'm going in myself because I don't want any more blood on my hands.
I actually like that interpretation.
And, of course, in the end, the plan works.
Yes, it does.
So,
It does. I also have to say, and we're gonna, we talked about that scene with Kimi where Ben turns with Kevin Durant last week, where Ben turns himself in, and we're going to talk about that scene again with Michael Emerson, who's going to be back on the pod next week talking about the finale. I just got to say how much I love that scene. I mean, both of those actors and like the hatred that they have for each other. The way Ben flicks his eyes up at the gun, but otherwise, doesn't have any reaction whatsoever with his life, like, in Kimi's hands here. And I realized that another subtle thing that I loved about this scene, when Ben says,
"My name is Benjamin Linus. I believe you're looking for me."
It's such a great line, I think, because it's a totally unnecessary line. Kimi knows his name. Obviously, he knows Kimi's been looking for him, and Kimi knows that. They've already had this confrontation. To me, this is just Ben, taking the, Kimi is there spitting fire at him with his eyes and with his expression. And I think Ben is trying to take it and kind of spit it right back in his face. Like, I'm just standing here, I have no fear of you. Like, I'm going to make this ridiculous comment and just show my bravado. Like, I feel like that it's a line that's intended to show his fearlessness in a way, because it's the information he's communicating is not actually information Kimi needs to know. It's just like, I'm here and I know exactly what I'm doing.
That's interesting. Maybe.
That's my interpretation.
I had taken it kind of more as like a de-escalation thing. Like, he walks out very clearly with his hands up as if to show, I'm, hey buddy, it's me, it's Ben Linus, like, not trying to fool you. I know, I'm what you're looking for.
That's interesting. I read it much more as a like, yeah, well, fuck you too.
Why not both? But
maybe. It's such a great scene, though. I mean, either way.
Oh, for sure.
Couple quick points, just things we missed. I low key really love how quickly Daniel Faraday volunteers himself to start ferrying people on the Zodiac. Really strong moment for that character. I think the first time we've seen him be selfless and kind of brave too. It's not an easy task.
That felt to me like he had very firmly picked a side.
Yeah,
finally.
Yeah, there you go.
All of season 4, he and Charlotte, but especially him, have sort of been vacillating between, well, these are my orders, this is my employer, we're here to do mysterious science, and wanting to help these people. And now he's like, okay, this has gotten out of hand. I'm here to help these people.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it feels like, it's a moment that makes the character just much, much more likable and sympathetic. Mm-hmm. And I've also just got to say, the moment when the Zodiac raft is coming up on the beach and they're all rushing to, see Sayid, once again, just like every week, there's a shot of Juliet looking super fucking happy to see a raft and away off the island. And again, it's just like, I get it, show. She's not getting off the island. We don't know that yet, but I can't watch these episodes. And he's like, you're just twisting that knife on us again and again. It's like, remember, Juliet wants to get off the island. Anyway.
Oh, jeez. Agreed.
All the credit. Anyway, do you have any hindsights?
So there's a brief discussion. I think it's Hurley who brings up, okay, so you guys want to move the island. Doesn't that mean everybody, what Hurley says is, doesn't that mean the dudes with guns move too? which theoretically, yes, even though Ben, of course, has a plan for that. I don't know. It's just a very interesting foreshadow that I can't remember how I felt about it the first time. But of course, this becomes an enormously important plot point.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know how important that's going to be yet. You know, we do see it happen in the finale. Sort of. We see it from the helicopter's vantage point. But, I mean, that's like what powers the remainder of season 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, for sure.
So.
I'm looking forward to it. I love season 5.
Yeah, just a fun illusion, and always love it when Hurley serves as the peanut gallery because I always agree with him.
The peanut gallery.
But anyway, do you have anything?
Is there something from our listeners? I commented last week that I just thought I loved the appendectomy storyline, and I just, wondered what had inspired the writers, at this, high point dramatically in the show to decide to give Jack, appendicitis, even though, it worked so well. And a bunch of listeners, wrote us on Twitter and Facebook and various places to point out that the fact that Jack lost his appendix seemed to be what allowed him to live long enough after he got stabbed by the Man in Black in the series finale, where his appendix would have been, and he was bleeding from that spot, pretty much for the rest of that episode. But people were saying that their interpretation, which I think is pretty valid, is that the fact that his appendix wasn't there anymore was what allowed him to live long enough to go down into the well and replug the island before dying from this stab wound. Which I like a lot.
Is that how that works?
I mean, so the Lost PD, I was reading about the finale, and the comparison it made was that it's similar to the thing where, last season Ben shoots Locke, and Locke comments that he probably would have died if he, had still had a kidney in that spot. So I think it's definitely intentional. I think the show is, doing a parallel here where both Jack and Locke, are able to live long enough to do something important because they had an organ removed from them.
Seems like an odd thing to choose to do, a very specific thing to choose to do a parallel about.
It's never stated explicitly in the show, but it seems to be a pretty widespread interpretation, and I appreciate our listeners for bringing it to my attention. Anyway, yeah, we should get to the interview.
Yeah, so Sammy had a conversation a couple weeks ago with Malcolm David Kelley, who, of course, played Walt. Malcolm, of course, has some great stories about being the only kid on set, everything he learned from the other actors on the show, and tells us what he's up to now.
All right, I'm here with Malcolm David Kelley. Of course, he played Walt on Lost, was in the main cast the first season, and then came back, episode by episode later on. Malcolm, thanks very much for talking with us on The Hatch.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you guys showing love, support to the show, and kind of keeping it going. So definitely appreciate that.
Oh, there is still so much love for Lost, by the way. I mean, I'm sure you get this, out there in the world. People must still want to talk to you about Lost all the time.
Yeah, man. No, that's what I'm saying. It's definitely with the streaming, kind of taking over, and people being able to watch it for the first time. It's just being able to reach the new generations coming up. So, yeah, man. No, I definitely appreciate it. Just I get love on all social media and. Still even in public sometimes I still got that familiar face. I know I grew up a little bit, but it's like, it takes them a little second, but eventually they get it or they know right off the bat. So it's all love. I appreciate it.
That's awesome, man. Let's go way back in time. You were like, what, 12 years old. Tell us how you got cast. How did you get that job?
Yeah, so I was about 12. I started acting around like 6 years old. And did a couple commercials and a couple movies. And, when Lost came about, that was one of the first TV shows. It was a pilot, started off as a pilot, just a one-episode idea. And, went in, did about 3 sessions of auditions for it, with like the regular audition, and then going into producers, and then, actually going in for the network. And then, finding out we booked it. I booked the role as Walt, and then we went to Hawaii, shot the pilot, and it was definitely a family atmosphere over there. Everybody was just excited to be there. We didn't know if the show was going to get picked up, but we were all happy with what we did, and it was like, when we shot it, it was one of the most expensive pilots, ever shot. Just like with the real plane, and it was just awesome. So yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of the backstory on it. And, once that pilot came out, we got a great reception, and then we got that call that, we were picked up for season 1. So, we all just moved to Hawaii for 9 months out of the year, man. And, at that age, just moving to Hawaii and, I remember my mom came with me for the pilot, but she was working as well. So I had to have like a guardian come with me while we were shooting, for the 9 months of being out there. But, yeah, man, just a kid on the island running around and, working with all these great actors. I was probably one of the youngest actors on the set, but just to work with all those people, was great, and just to learn so much. So it was definitely fun, man.
Yeah. What was it weird? I mean, I guess what was it like being the, kid on set around all these, veteran actors? Like, I don't know. I just kind of, we've talked to other actors from the show, and for them it was, kind of just another job. But for you, I mean, I'm sure it was like nothing you'd ever done before.
Right. Yeah, that was like I said, it was my first TV show I ever booked as being a series regular. And yeah, I mean, being a kid and looking back on it, you just, as a kid, you're just in the moment, just enjoying it. I remember, one of the highlights was, I was homeschooled, so I was like, just a couple hours out of the day, on set doing school, and I'm running around playing laser tag in the hotel. And, when we go on the set, we're shooting on the beach, at the water. So it was definitely a lot to take in, just looking back on it and knowing that every set is not like that, or not every set gets to shoot in Hawaii. I just get to look back on it and just understand, how much of a beautiful thing it was, and just to work with everybody from Harold Perrineau to, Ian and Dominic Monaghan. I mean, just everybody, they've all held their weight and been doing their thing, acting, and it was just great to work with everybody. I remember sometimes they would try not to cuss around me and stuff like that, and but that was just them being respectful and having a good time. We sing around, and Naveen Andrews would play his guitar. It was a big family atmosphere because we all just had to pick up and move to Hawaii, so we had was each other pretty much. We would get together every week and watch the show, and it was just a big
wow.
family atmosphere, man. It was dope.
Couple things. You mentioned they were trying not to cuss around you, which I think is hilarious. There's that scene. It reminded me of that scene in the pilot where Hurley's talking about the Hurley Garcia talking about the bodies, and you and you know what he's saying, and you spell it out. Was that funny to you at the time? Like, did you get that stuff?
Oh yeah. No, that was hilarious. I mean, because I was like, kind of real stuff going on set as well. But I mean, yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was fun. Hurley was dope. Definitely somebody I got close with on set as well. Yeah.
That's cool. What you mentioned Harold Perrineau. I mean, we love Harold. I mean, he's so. I mean, he's such a great actor. What was what was your relationship like with him? Playing this kid.
Oh man, Harold definitely. I tip my hat off to him. He's definitely kind of like, I don't know if he knows it, but I definitely looked up to him in a lot of ways, still do. And at that time, like I said, I was kind of out there with the Guardian, so. He definitely just, played like another male figure that I can look up to, and definitely just working with him was just amazing, just trying to watch and learn as much as possible being that age. And, he had his kids out there with him as well. And like I said, it just felt like, a family thing. That was just, another father figure that I had to look up to, that were playing on screen, and also while being out there in Hawaii. He had his family out there, so I got close with his family. He had a daughter, she's a few years younger than me, but, at that time we were both just young kids. And, we were friends. And, but yeah, Harold was very cool, man. We just would hang out all the time, we swim or work out, he's trying to help me with a little bit of the boxing, just trying to stay busy, with or just find things to do with the people we had there. Yeah, Harold was great, man. Still love to this day, checking him on the family on Instagram and Facebook, or, I know with COVID, everything's shut down, but I used to see him out about at the Grove and stuff like that, or if we had events, for some lost stuff or something like that. But yeah, man, our relationship was amazing.
That's awesome.
Love him, and everybody, but yeah, I just spent a lot of time with him, so.
That's interesting. Just because talking about him being like a parent figure out there, it's interesting because on the show, of course, your relationship is so strained. Like he's always wanted to be your dad, but he never gets to, and once he does, it's like, who is this guy and what's he what's he doing? It's kind of a tough story to watch.
Yeah, and it's the real thing, definitely being at that age, I just, it's hard to kind of understand about the relationships, but as I grow up, in my own real time in real life, I just, see some of those things play out. I understand how it can go with the kids and the separations and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, but he was great with helping me work through that. I know when we had like some of those tough scenes of going at it, or butting heads, we were kind of just, I think we had like one little moment that was in real life where, I remember he kind of got on me about something. I don't remember what it was. I remember
something you were doing on the show, or just something like
no, this is something in real life. I don't remember what it was, but he kind of got on me about something. But it was great though, and I remember it just translating over into the scenes, and because that was kind of our relationship, and I think he was just doing like some method stuff, just to both get us into it. But yeah, man, no, I love him. I love everything that show gave me as an experience. It was dope.
Ultimately you kind of do reconcile and you get a better relationship, but then when he has to, he kills those two people to get you back, and it kind of ruins the relationship, and you guys get separated, and then he dies, and it sort of never resolves. I mean, it's sad that those two don't get to, sort of have a happy ending.
Yeah, man, I still tip my hat off to the writers, but I mean, we're just that big of an ensemble cast, and for them to, at least get all this, some of the stories out, or, on the characters as much as they could, I think was dope. And then, having to reintroduce new characters and new stories and stuff like that. So, I understand sometimes I didn't have the time to go back and really dial in on some things, but yeah, I mean, just leaving it up for, the little mystery is kind of like, like a thing too. So, I can't be mad at it. But yeah, I wish we could have elaborated on that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, they do. The last thing, I mean, you probably remember you filmed that sort of epilogue that they put on the DVD where you're like at the mental institute, and Ben and Hurley come to visit you, and they want to take you back to the island. I thought that was an interesting place to end. Right,
yeah. That's they them just leaving open room for other possibilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just. Yeah, you never know. You never know what could happen. So.
yeah, I'm sure you're game for the revival where Walt is on the island doing stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm super game.
The other character I wanted to ask about, in addition to Harold, I mean, you obviously worked a bunch with Terry O'Quinn, who was kind of teaching you to throw the knife, and you were playing backgammon. He must have been pretty interesting too. I mean, his persona is pretty curious.
Yeah, it is. That's kind of how he is, almost how he is in person as well. But Terry is a great guy, very nice. He was just so cool to work with as well. Like you said, I spent a lot of time with him. So, yeah, he was just really cool, man. Laid back. Yeah, it was just fun working with Terry. Like with the orange pill, like just smiling.
Yeah.
I just picture that every time I say his name, because he was just that cool of a guy, and just chill and funny, man. So, but yeah, Terry was really cool.
That's cool. Did you you did have an episode in season 1, the episode Special, which was like all about you and your dad. I mean, it was your own flashback. Do you remember, like, I don't know, like being nervous about that, or was that like an especially large amount of work? Like, you had a whole episode about you, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and with the TV show, we would always kind of like change directors almost every few episodes or something like that. So I'm not really remember who directed that one, but yeah, I mean, when you get a little bit more camera time, and it's like, yeah, this episode's kind of about you guys. It's like, you work on a little bit more with the director and really just trying to dial in with everything you guys have put into the characters, and I just thought they did an amazing job, and, I had fun, and kind of just, I've always wanted to be like, have like the little superhero power a little bit. So then to kind of, elaborate on that and give me something to play with in that aspect was pretty dope, man. Like, I can't wait to do some more stuff like that as well. But yeah, I mean, it was nerve-wracking a little bit, but I appreciate the challenges and being able to go through something like that. And just kept preparing me for more and more things, as I kept going. But no, I enjoyed it, man. I love acting, and the challenges that comes with it. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute.
You mentioned the superhero powers. You got to do some cool stuff. You made the bird crash into the window. You got to come back as dripping wet in the jungle, whispering stuff backwards. What do you think? What do you make of all that? What did you think was? Do you have any ideas about what was going on there? Or did you were you comfortable not knowing? What was up with that?
Yeah, they never really explained it, kind of just where it came from. But no, I thought it was interesting. When kind of seeing the bird in the book and
the polar bear.
Yeah, with the bird smacking against the window, and then me reading the comic book, and then the polar bear appearing. I don't want to get too deep, but I just think it's I don't know. I kind of almost thought of it as a. Well, the island was definitely, had a trippy thing, but, I don't know, my metaphor I just got from it was just definitely not as making polar bears and stuff appear like that, but, it's just the mind is a powerful thing, definitely what you speak into the universe, you could attract back to you. I just kind of thought of it as a little, entendre in a type of way, but no, I just thought it was cool. But being able to throw the knives and and have a dog on the set, I thought was amazing. I really bonded with the dog so much. I was just looking at some old pictures, and, it just brought back a lot of memories. But yeah, man, being able to do all those things, it just kind of just put you in a whole different world. I really felt like I was really out on this island, and this was kind of just life, and we trying to figure out what we're doing and surviving at the same time and just going through all these things. So, it was just amazing. As a kid, I think it was cool just to give me, extra things to do like that. But yeah, no, I loved it. I remember one time with the knife throwing it against the tree. That's kind of dangerous, and that was kind of my first time doing something like that. And I remember I was sticking them. I was actually doing it, but one time it kind of hit the tree the wrong way and bounced back and almost kind of hit me a little bit. So I was kind of scary to do some stuff like that. But we're doing the real stunts, man. I'm doing my stunts, But yeah, no, it was all good.
I was watching one of those scenes the other day with you throwing the knife, and Ian Somerhalder was standing sort of near the tree, and I was thinking, gee, he's standing too close. Back up, man.
Right,
you're gonna get your face cut.
Yeah, there were real knives and stuff like that too. But definitely working with professionals on set, when we do anything like that. But yeah, man, still, you never know what can happen. But thankfully, luckily, everything was good. I was making sure I was on point, But yeah, no, man, I loved every moment of that.
Yeah. The other scene with you have a knife. There's that scene where the polar bear is attacking you, and obviously I'm sure it was all CGI. But you were were you stabbing at the air there because you had a knife and you stabbed the polar bear?
Yeah, I remember. Most of it was CGI. They had a a little fake, a fake polar bear, kind of with the head and I remember it was probably almost waist up, maybe a little higher up from the waist, but it was kind of moving a little bit. They kind of had a little robotic one, so yeah, and the rest was CGI. So yeah, that's kind of how they did the polar bear, but yeah, that was fun. That was definitely fun.
That's awesome.
And I love Hawaii, man. All that, the beaches and the trees. That tree I was in was all real, and everything, and just the island was beautiful, man. So it was just very cool.
Yeah. No, man, I'm jealous. I've never been to Hawaii, so you had to go out there when you were 12 and live on the beach for 9 months. That's amazing. The other set of scenes from season 1 I want to ask you about the raft. You guys build the raft and go out on the ocean. Were you actually out on the water for any of that?
Yeah. Majority of it, we were all in the water, man. They built up some of the raft. I'm glad they made it float, but I remember we would probably take about a 20-minute or 20 to 15-minute drive, in the water, from shore or whatever, just for, maybe even more. But we were really out there. We had the raft, and we would have like 2 or 3 other boats out there, like with the crew, holding the camera stuff, or one for the actors and with all the food and stuff like that. I remember a couple times I was getting a little seasick, man. Those waters out there are, man, they were getting kind of choppy, and sometimes with the raft, it's not as, it's not, it was makeshift, and it wasn't really like a boat or anything, and I just probably wasn't used to being on the water like that for so long, and not knowing what to eat, but so yeah, just battling with that. But I really enjoyed being on the raft and being in the water. That was my first time doing something like that, and I remember just hopping from boat to boat. It was kind of scary, when they took me from a boat to the other boat, but I enjoyed it, man. That was yeah, something I'll never forget.
I mean, I would have been terrified because I can't swim, so I don't think I could have, even if I was an actor, I don't think I could have done that, but I mean, good for you guys. What about the scene where, the scene with the kidnapping and they blow up the raft? What do you remember about filming that? Yeah,
like I said, I mean, the main thing was, just really, jumping from boat to boat was kind of like my thing. We really had to jump over the water, and, I'm kind of being the one being transported over in the middle of the water, so I'm like, hope y'all don't drop me, but no, it was definitely cool just being on the water and working with the people who play the others. Those were veterans as well, and it was amazing. But just to be out on the water and shoot something like that was a first, and was definitely dope. Man, it was definitely really cool.
I saw on your Twitter account at the Real Malcolm that you're selling a Walt T-shirts now, right?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. I during just with the time of Corona and COVID, just had a lot of free time. I actually found some, when I kind of was first doing the show, I had some other shirts that was like "Where's Walt," but just as time just kept going on, and like social media, when I hop on live or anytime I just like people send me messages or fan messages, they always say Walt. So I was like, I gotta just put this on a shirt, man, and just, show some love to the people who've been supporting. And like I said, people are starting to tap into the show for the first time, just via streaming. So, it's just kind of taking on a whole new life again. So, but yeah, man, I just got those shirts. You can check it out. I got the link on my website if y'all want to just check it out. But,
what's your website?
It's actually on my Instagram. It's through Wix, but it's all in K, ENT. But yeah, you can just find it through my Instagram at the Real Malcolm, or Twitter at the Real Malcolm.
Yeah, everyone can go check that out because they're cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. But yeah, no, that was funny. Yeah.
So what I've read is that after you were in the main cast in season 1, and is it correct that like after that you just started to grow so fast that they kind of had to be careful with how much they used you because the timeline wasn't going to work? Yeah,
and there was it was season 2. That's when I think that's when I got kidnapped. But yeah, but yeah, like when I was younger at that age, I was a little short for my age, so I was playing younger characters, but I might have been at least 2 years older, or a year and a half, or sometimes 3 than the actual character I was playing. So definitely the loss. It kind of worked out, me being short, at that time, but. As season 2 came around, or middle of season 2, I needed braces, and I'm starting to grow a little bit more, and so my voice is getting a little deeper. So they were like, let's just try something. So hey, the kidnapping, and I got to come back, a little flashback. So I wasn't too mad at it.
Yeah. You came back and you did, so you're in a couple episodes in season 2, and then you get off the island at the end. Your dad gets a boat and you get off the island. I think you came back for like one scene at the end of season 3 where you're talking to Terry at the edge of that pit and telling him to get up. Right. And then you come back one scene in season 4 when we just watched this, where you go to visit Hurley at the Mental Institute, and then one more in season 5 where Terry comes to visit you again. What was was it weird to like pop back in now that you're a little older and your life's a little different, or was it just like old times going back and hanging out with them again?
Honestly, it was just like old times, man. Pretty much most of the same crew. They would it was a Hawaii-based crew, and So everybody, all the Hawaii crew lived there, and it was just, so I come back, I would know all the lighting, the grips, and, the camera people. So, yeah, man, it was just like coming back to home and, being out there for 9 months out of the year when I was out there, I definitely built up, I met some great people out there in Hawaii, so shout out to Hawaii, everybody in Hawaii who went Honolulu. But, yeah, it's like, man, one of my third homes down there. So much love. So yeah, it was just a home environment, man, just to really go back. I was appreciative to go back and be on a show. And I remember I did the one thing, dripping wet, man. They were pouring water on me for hours, man. But hey, I'm a trooper. I'm a champion. So we were getting it done. But no, I appreciate it, man, just to go back and to keep Walt going. I appreciate it. While I can still do other things and other projects and stuff like that. So yeah, it was awesome.
By the way, the scene where you were dripping wet, the line that they play that you said, you say it backwards. I assume did you know that was going to happen? Like when you recorded that scene that they were going to make it play backwards and make it all creepy?
No, when we shot it, I don't think they said that, but I think I had to do some ADR on it or something like that, and go in and do some extra voiceover work for it after we shot it, and I think that's when they mentioned it to me, and then I didn't have it playing backwards then in the studio, but as I saw it on TV, I was like, oh, okay, it was just trippy. It was trippy. So.
Oh man,
it was dope.
What so just to wrap up here, what does Lost mean to you today? Like what is I guess what's the show's legacy in your life, in your from the review now?
Man, I think it's man, one of the dopest shows to come out, just from shout out to J.J. Abrams and the whole team, from Brian and Damon Lindelof. Just a show that was I don't want to say ahead of its time, but that was almost like right before the turning curve. I just think JJ also implemented like some of the flashbacks and like just gave another little element to TV a little bit. I just think it's a one of a kind show. I know they had a show called Island or something like that came out not too long ago, but I still think Lost is still one of a kind show, and I just think with them coming out with shows like that, they're just paying homage and to something that did some great things. And in my career, it's man, definitely a big milestone in my career. It's one of my first TV shows, and still a TV show that has taken on and grown bigger legs that I can even imagine it doing. And, still be getting recognized and still be getting love from a show that I did, over like 10 years ago is amazing. I don't think you can ask for anything more. So yeah, man, that's what Lost means to me. It's like my baby.
Mm-hmm.
I love being a part of it. Loved every moment. I wouldn't change anything. And yeah, man. So just appreciate everybody who supports the show. Appreciate you taking the time out, to do this, and you showing the show some love, and
for sure, man.
Podcast, and yeah, man. So no, that's what it means to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last one, I'm still curious. Have you ever gone back and watched any of those scenes you did when you were 12?
I do, and sometimes, people send me the clips and stuff like that, is definitely when I really get to watch it. So yeah, I just get to reflect and yeah, but no, sometimes I do go back and just watch it and like, let me just check this out, because it's hilarious, and like with my old, with my other stuff as well. So, but yeah, just to see how far we've come, and just like what was going on at that time, and yeah, it's just good to go relive those moments.
That's awesome, man. Malcolm, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
No problem, man.
Everyone should go follow you on Instagram and Twitter at The Real Malcolm, and yeah, man, this has been awesome.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, bro.
All right, it's good talking to you. Good luck with your project. But we always end by asking people, what are you working on now?
Oh yeah, definitely. I got some music out. I'm in a group called MKTO. We had a big song called Classic that went platinum, I think like in 2014, 2015. We took a little hiatus, but we're back. We've been putting out music, so you guys check that out. Also got some solo stuff out. So you can find all that on my Instagram and my socials at The Real Malcolm on Instagram and Twitter. A few other acting projects out. You can check me out on Deputy. It's a show. I think it's on Hulu. I just did an episode of that. Episode 4. I'm on Insecure if you guys like that. But yeah, man, with Corona, I know a lot of things are still on hold.
Yeah.
The acting world is still kind of moving slow, but definitely got some things up my sleeve I'm trying to get done. With just writing projects as well now, just trying to put on different hats. As well, like just a quick little thing. Just watching. I was in a movie called Antoine Fisher, and Desmond got to direct that, and that's kind of where it sparked my interest, just to know about longevity in this business and being able to do different things like acting and directing in a project. So that's definitely one of the things on my bucket list I'm trying to get accomplished now. So just writing, just dialing these things, about to get into some casting for these projects. But yeah, man, a lot of stuff on the way. So you guys look out, follow my socials for extra updates, and appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks, man. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, bro. Peace.
All right. Bye.
Well, that was a wonderful conversation. I'm astounded by how much Malcolm remembers about this show that he, was 15 years ago for him, because the bulk of his work was in seasons 1 and 2.
Yes, same. My recall of stuff that happened when I was 12 is nowhere near as good as like the stuff he remembered from the set. Like, kind of.
I also did nothing nearly this cool when I was 12, but
well, most 12-year-olds didn't. So that's fair.
Interestingly, I think Malcolm's interpretation of kind of what was going on with Walt's psychic powers is maybe my favorite of all the ones I've heard. He explains it really simply, which is just, he says the mind is a powerful thing. And Walt understands that at a very early age and is sort of learning what he can do with that. And I was like, that is so interesting because, I've always watched Lost as an adult and kind of, you try to apply this like very specific filter, but Malcolm saying like, he's a kid and he, doesn't know what's happening here and doesn't really know how to use it, but he knows he's powerful. I don't know. That crystallized that for me in a really, really helpful way.
I agree, and in fact, I wrote down what he said too. I mean, the second thing he said, he said the mind is a powerful thing, and then he said what you put into the universe could attract back to you. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's such a philosophically mature idea that, bigger than just the question of how did he get these powers and what can he do with them. It's this idea that what you give to others or manifest yourself into the world, like that stuff will come back at you, good or bad.
Right.
And I feel like that just works on, so many different levels that have nothing to do with, a kid having special powers. It's just a good concept.
Right. And I think lots of people believe some version of that. And arguably lots of characters on Lost believe some version of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a very helpful way to make sense of, something.
For sure.
Yeah.
I am glad. I was like very, I don't say relieved, but happy to hear that he and Harold Perrineau did have such a close relationship, and that Harold was kind of a dad to him on set. Like that's just so nice to know that was not just something they were doing on camera. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that, and I also loved in the scene where he was dripping wet and speaking backwards to Shannon. Yeah. That they were just dumping water on him the whole time to keep him sufficiently wet. I think that's so funny.
It worked and it looked creepy as hell. So nice job.
Anyway, grateful to Malcolm for the time talking with us.
Absolutely. And next week, of course, season finale, we will be watching No Place Like Home parts 2 and 3. Means it'll probably be a long episode, but nobody seems to mind.
You've probably noticed our episodes have been longer recently, and we haven't been getting complaints, so we're just gonna keep doing that until someone calls us on it.
And then we will have the second half of our season 4 interview with Michael Emerson, who of course joined us to discuss The Shape of Things to Come a few weeks ago.
In the meantime, follow us on social media and keep the conversation going. We are at The Hatch Podcast on Twitter, also facebook.com/The Hatch Podcast.
If you like the show and would like to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, we'd be grateful.
Our theme music is by Andy G. Cohen. Our cover art is by Danny Roth.
We'll see you next week.
Namaste.